Hi, it's Roger here with the 5 steps on how to unlock the genie in your genius. Imagine if each of us actually had a genie, a bit like in Aladdin, where he goes on this journey and ends up with this magic lamp, and just by shining the lamp, he ends up with this amazing genie come up, giving him all his wishes, and he suddenly goes from having nothing to having everything. Well, I'm here in New York right now because we're about to launch Genius U. We're also launching my book, which is all about this. It's about the fact that each of us has a natural genius, and in the center of that, there is a light that the moment we unlock it, it's like magic happens. And I want to tell you a little story. It's something I want to show you in the story I want to tell you about someone who's a genius who was here 150 years ago. So a bit of history for New York. And this man was a Frenchman. He was a sculptor. He in fact created what is now one of the most famous statues in the world, which is the Statue of Liberty. And he didn't come up with the idea from New York. He actually came up with the idea in Egypt. And his name is Frederick Bartholdi, and he basically was on this trip down the Nile in like 1856. And as he was on this journey, he kind of like went to Luxor and saw these amazing statues. And he'd done small statues and so on, but he's like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to do an incredible statue. Now, he'd heard of the 7 ancient wonders, which included 2 massive, huge lighthouses. One of them was the Lighthouse of Alexandria, and the other one was the Colossus of Rhodes. Colossus of Rhodes was a man who was, basically, meant to be Helios, which was the sun god, and he had these 7 rays coming out of his crown. And he goes, "That's it. I'm going to do exactly the same, but a woman." That was his plan. And he went back and started doing all the drawings and so on. And what's so interesting about that process is he had to wait for the right opportunity, because this is like a big project. So he waited 10 years. And eventually the time came, which was the launch of the Suez Canal, where he said, perfect, that's where it needs to be. And so he ends up basically heading down to the Suez Canal for the opening, meets up with the leader of Egypt, shows him all the drawings, gets this close to getting it approved, but they don't have the financing. So what are you going to do? Are you going to say, well, that's it, I'm not going to do it anymore? No, go find someone else who's going to actually see the value in what you're doing. So he did that. He went out and said, well, America must be the next place, because America's right now at the birth of its independence. And so he connects with the people in America, the people in France. He gets the governments on both sides to okay it, but they're only going to put up some of the money. So now he's got a different problem, which is how do I make sure I have the money to actually make this happen? By the way, if you're wondering why it's all windy here, it's because I'm actually on Liberty Island at the moment. As you can see up here, here is the back of Lady Liberty. So we'll kind of go around to the front of his, not too windy, we'll see how it goes here. And so what he does is he basically, if you're in a situation where you're going to be starting something and you don't have the resources, it's like, I've got a business I've got to start, or I've got a product I want to get going. And you're giving yourself the excuse, which is I can't do it any more than I can because I don't have the resources to do it. Well, take a tip from what he did. This is what Frederick did. He says, I got this big woman I got to make. I got to start somewhere. So he starts with a hand. So she ends up creating the hand with the torch, taking it to the Centennial Exhibition in New York. This is now in 1886. It's 20 years after he came with the idea. Enough that he can then start getting funding from people, saying, here's what I have in mind. And they're going, well, the hand looks pretty good. All right, let's give this a go. They could put some money in, enough to then do what? To actually do the head. So he now does the head, takes that to the World Fair, which is in Paris, raises some more money, and keeps on going like this for 6 years until he gets up to waist height. And this is where he's kind of getting the reporters in, saying, look what I've done now. And they're like, wow, this is pretty impressive. And he has this lunch in the torso where they all come in and have a lunch and then go out and report about this. And the magic in this is not just that he ends up getting the money bit by bit, he ends up getting the support, the connections bit by bit as well. So for example, Gustav Eiffel, who is of Eiffel Tower fame, ends up supporting him and becomes the engineer on the project. Someone like Joseph Pulitzer, who's a wealthy man in New York who basically created the Pulitzer Prize, but also then said, I'm going to put my efforts behind this as well, and went out and raised the money with the New Yorkers. The last 120,000 donations that came in were from New Yorkers themselves for the base, while Gustav was there and Frederick were there with all the different bits of the Statue of Liberty and crates within the New York port. And they finally got it all together by 1886, and then it went up, and here it is today. This is the Statue of Liberty, and here we are on Liberty Island at the moment, looking out to sea, so that everyone who used to come in to New York, or everyone who still comes in to New York by ship, would actually get this beautiful sight of the Statue of Liberty as they came in as a symbol of freedom. What can we learn from this? What are the kind of 5 steps that you and I can follow, and that I see people following all the time, which allows them to go from nothing to everything, to leaving a legacy? The first step is manifest. I mean, obviously that's what he did. He didn't just say, I've got an idea. He wrote it down, he drew it out, So manifesting is the #1 key thing. Second thing is acting, not massive actions, but small actions which lead you towards where you're going. So you can start building resources as you go as well. That's the second thing that he did. And then the third thing, for a lot of us, we're like, well, I don't have much. I don't have much to give. We each have our genius to give. So that was one of the biggest things, was that just giving your genius, giving his genius, bit by bit. Here's the hand, here's the head. Just doing it bit by bit allowed him to be able to then get the support he needed. And that's where the fourth step comes in, which is involve. You know, involve is not about like you trying to do it all yourself. You know, success is not how much you want it. Success is how much the people around you want your success, how much they're involved in it so that their success is your success and vice versa. That's what he did when he got everyone involved in it, so it became something which was way beyond him. That's why so many people then contributed towards it as well. And then finally, complete. You know, he actually had to finish it off, and he did in 1886, headed back to France, got like the biggest honor you can get in France, which is the Legion of Honor. And that was it. That was his legacy. And here we are now 150 years later, and there is the Statue of Liberty. So manifest, act, gift, involve, complete, MAGIC. Those are the 5 magic steps for us to actually get from genius to genie. And for you, it's the same thing. For me, it's the same thing as well. It's like all you have to do is find the lamp, and if we get the lamp and then we rub it, we're going to end up basically with this genie coming out. And it's not something that kind of like is there like, you know, a long time in the future. It already exists. In fact, the word genie is a French verb, which actually French word that comes from genius, which is a Latin word, which is meant as the guardian spirit within each of us. You know, this is what our ancestors used to think, is that we all had a guardian spirit within us, and that guardian spirit was something which created our character, it created our talents, it created what was uniquely us. And that's really the base of everything from the Genius Test, the Genius U, to the Millionaire Master Plan, is the fact that it's bringing that back to life, that already exists for each of us. You know, Gen, gen means in Latin to give birth, as in, you know, Genesis or generation, genius. You know, our genie is about what it is that gives birth to the greatness within us as well. And you know, if you actually say, well, where is that lamp? Where is it? Where do I find the lamp? Well, just have a look here, because this lighthouse here, and in fact, the Statue of Liberty wasn't originally called the Statue of Liberty. It was called Liberty Enlightening the World. That's what lighthouses do, they enlighten. And that's exactly what each of us are there meant to do as well. You're looking for the lamp? Well, we are the lamp. You're looking for the lighthouse? We are the lighthouse. You know, we're there just waiting for someone to kind of come along and polish us, unless we choose to do it for ourselves with those 5 key steps that we can take, and suddenly out comes our greatness. So as we get to a point where the helicopter is flying overhead, and as I head back into New York, the next time you see this little statue here, hopefully it will remind you of the lighthouse that you are, and the fact that just by taking those 5 steps, you also can make that magic. And on that note, we'll be off, and we'll see you in the next video.